Welcome to Pull Up and Pour, the podcast where you pull up just as you are, pour whatever's in your glass and heart, and join the conversation. This is your happy hour without the pressure, a space for real stories, real laughs, and real talk. Whether it's wine, water, or a mocktail in your glass, what matters most is that you're willing to share what's on your mind and in your heart. Because here we say it, we sip it, and we share it. In this space, connection flows best when everyone's welcome. So pull up, get comfortable, and let's pour into some conversation. Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to an episode of Pull Up and Pour. Okay. With us, I have Chinelo. I'm so sorry.
I
The
I knew
last
you would
name.
be
I
able to
said
do
it
it.
perfectly. Say it again so that I can imitate it and get this right. This is
N-
important to me.
Ngene, Ngene.
This is
Yeah,
Chinelo and Ngene. Did I
yeah,
do that right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Okay. So we are here because today's episode is called With Love from Nigeria, Womanhood Abroad. And this is because this truly speaks to my heart right here. For anybody out there who knows me, they know that I love to experience new cultures and they know that I am a travel bug and travel for me is almost like breathing. I absolutely love it. So I met Chinny because Chinny is actually her name is Chinelo. I call her Chinny, okay? But Chinelo actually is my a marketing digital a marketing professional. Okay, she's the one who does all of my marketing, my digital marketing. I'm learning actually as I work with her. I'm actually learning this stuff. Okay, I'm one of the ones where kind of I will do it, but it wasn't something that I actually really was, I guess, my thing, but it is her. So that whole thing when you kind of do what you do best, and then you bring people in to help you do what they do best, and then it works out for
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
So that is how I came to meet Shinny, and she is phenomenal at her job, and also is a great teacher because you have to know that I ask a lot of questions are probably the same ones over and over again. And Jenny is very patient with me and she answers every single question without getting upset, which I'm sure sometimes she probably feels like, now, I just told you, like, seriously, like, this is like the fourth time. So it takes, she has like patience a joke. So that said, Chinny, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell everybody out there, okay, who you are, and we can go from there. By the way, guys, it's happy hour. At least it's probably happy hour somewhere. So, in keeping up with Pull Up and Pour, we do have our happy hour wine. You, Chinny, cheers. Happy hour on
Happy,
Friday.
happy hour.
Okay. So, cheers. So, go ahead. The floor is
Mm.
yours. Everybody's meeting you for today, but I just have to say, you are really living kind of like many people's daydream. Definitely mine. Okay. When did you first realize that, I don't want to kind of live a traditional life. I really want freedom and movement with what I enjoy doing.
Okay. So first of all, I've lived all my life in Nigeria. I've traveled a lot, but prior to that, I'd lived all my life in Nigeria. I've never been. You know how a lot of families in like the US, at least you would travel every so often.
Hmm.
Growing up,
Hmm.
travel was like a part of life. For us, it wasn't so much. So I lived a very, average life, middle class. And then at some point when I graduated from college, I realized that this is not what I wanted. I wanted to live in
Hmm.
a big city. So I moved to the biggest city in Nigeria, Lagos, and pretty much that's where I lived. I had some family there, so I started off living with them and all that. So when I turned 30, I'd done some traveling before then. When I turned 30, I just realized that it was a case of I wanted to travel for my birthday, and none of my friends were either willing to or were in the financial position to make the trip. So I just realized that it was either a case of me continuing to put my life on hold and wait until other people gave me the permission to do things before I could do it, or, I could just do it. So that was my first time ever traveling by myself. I signed up for this like group trip with a bunch of strangers, and we went to Morocco at the time. And
Oh.
it was such a great experience. Like I'd never done anything like that in my life, traveling with strangers and becoming friends. So after I did that when I turned 30, I just somewhere in my head, I was like, you know what? This is going to be my birthday gift to myself. So every year I would save up money and I would try to make that trip outside the country. And I did that for many years. So you asked about the moments I realized that I wanted to do travel or I wanted to leave Nigeria. I think I just come back on it from a trip to South Africa, Really, it's an African country as well, but like really developed, a lot of things work, way better than they do in Nigeria. And I remember just coming back and getting to the airport and, the conviction was very strong. Like, I don't want to spend the rest of my life
Mhm.
here. So at the time, I didn't know how I was going to achieve this dream, this thing that I wanted. I went online, did some research. Oh, where can I move to? What would it take? A lot of different options that were not immediately feasible. So for
Mhm.
me, as with some desires and aspirations that you don't feel in the immediate term is achievable, I just shelved it like, okay, you know what? Yeah, great, great, great. I want to move away from Nigeria. I don't really know how to go about it. Like all these options, there were different options. Apply to do a master's degree or apply for an express, like different options, but none of those options were things that I could easily do, and
Mhm.
most of them were like long-term plans too.
Mhm.
So at the time, I wasn't ready for it. I just put it to the side and just continued with my usual routine in Lagos. I had a good job. I lived in a good apartment. Life was
Mhm.
good.
Mhm.
In the standards of Nigeria, I had a pretty good life. But
Okay.
again, it was that nagging feeling like this all I'm going to keep doing, like, day in, day out, wake up,
Mhm.
go to work. You already know what your day is going to look like even before you get
Mhm.
into your car. Like it was routine and
Mhm.
I'd been working for the same company for about 7 years at that time. So I just was like, this cannot be my life. I feel like there's something else that I should be doing beyond like this. Because the work at points it used to be like really strenuous. We would have times when we came into the office on weekends, working like long hour weeks. So I wasn't satisfied with what the routine that I had created. And I felt that even though my life was good, there was more. And for me, it wasn't even just more in terms of how much more money I could make, and think it was just more in terms of satisfaction with oneself, more in terms of richness of life, more in terms of wealth, not just financially, but like overall wealth. And yeah, so at that point, I knew that this was not going to be it for me. So I then went back to the drawing board again, like, okay, what are the options? What are the things that I can actually do to like afford me the ability to leave this country, even if I don't have a clear plan on where exactly I'm going and how I'm going to
Mhm.
stay there permanently. But at least this lets me pretty much have a bit of both worlds. So that was my starting out desire. And so obviously at this point in time, I had already known about remote work, but I just hadn't thought about it in the context of traveling around the world. So I resolved that my first step would be to get a remote job. And once I got a remote job, that's like the confirmation I needed that, okay, you can actually do this, and that was what I did. So, I got a remote job and then I moved from there and started to plot where the destination should be and what I would do when I got there. And I guess all of that has led me to where we are.
Okay. So let me ask you, so okay, so you did the move, and you decided, to kind of do this more of a like a nomadic, lifestyle. How did your friends and family like react when you told them your plan? Or did you tell them your plan and kind of like move and then like, okay, this is what I'm doing at the last minute? How did you break that to them and what were their reactions?
So, when I left Nigeria, even I didn't know I was going to be a nomad. I knew that I wanted to leave the country and I had a remote job, but I didn't know what next. So it's actually something interesting because I had never done anything like that in my life before, where I pretty much make a move and I don't know what the next step is going to be. It's like I'm trusting destiny to just lead me to whatever I think should be my next best step. So when I left Nigeria, my goal was leave Nigeria, figure it out. And when I told my friends that, because that was what I had in mind, they thought I was crazy. Like, why? So some of them were like, oh, take take like a 3 months sabbatical from work and go and travel and come back. I mean, if it's travel that you want to do, go and do that and come back. But that wasn't it for me. It wasn't about traveling and coming back. It was about leaving. So the option that they were presenting, I said, no, I'm not taking a sabbatical. I'm not taking time off work. I'm simply going to leave. And they're like, okay, where are you going to stay? What are you going? Like they had so many questions. Like, okay, do you
Mhm.
even know anybody where you're going to? Even if I don't know anybody, I've been traveling by myself for like the past 8 years. So I think that prepared me for this. If I had never done
It's
that,
like you got
I wouldn't
this.
be doing
Like
this
you
now.
got this. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because, you know, I already had done it in, small doses for several years, just going somewhere,
Mhm.
meeting people there and having a great time, then going back. So the only difference here was it was going to be for an extended period and I just needed to figure it out. And I've been figuring it out. I've been
That's
figuring it out.
amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Did you have, I mean, because you seem like you just like are like really together with it. Were there any fears that you had before leaving, or you were just kind of like, or were there, any fears, or were there any kind of like anything emotional, like, in order that you had to let go of before embarking on this journey? Or are you just so kind of like headstrong in a sense of really want to get out there that no fears and emotional ties were going to kind of like hold you back? So like how were you with that? Were there any fears, and were there any emotional feelings that you have to let go before starting this?
Years, I don't think so. So at the time, I was already convicted, like this is what I'm going to do. And one thing I realized at that time, because it was like those months were very difficult months, actually, psychologically. So one thing I realized, or I said to myself during that time, was I wasn't going to let myself entertain any negative thoughts, like I was just going to be as optimistic as possible. I wasn't thinking about
Mm.
any problems that could come up. I was just thinking about, okay, I'm gonna get here. This is the life I'm going to live, and this and that. So like all of those fears, I didn't even give myself a minute to think about it. And I've pretty much been doing that. That optimism is what has carried me till now. Because for every country that I've gone to, it comes with its own peculiar challenges, especially traveling with a Nigerian passport. That's like a different conversation on its own entirely,
Oh my
and
gosh.
that's a privilege that, people on this side of the world, they don't relate to, like all the visa struggles, the airport struggles, just a lot of things. And you have to figure out how to navigate that as a nomad. It's like a whole
Well,
factor
let's
on
talk
its own.
about that. Let's talk about that because I think, when you're out of the West, okay, like in the US and I have a US passport, I think that that's something that we not meaning to, but you take for granted because it's like, okay, I have this US passport and it pretty much works any and everywhere. I think I've only really traveled to, I remember in Turkey, I had to have a visa, okay, that I purchased online and I showed that, but everywhere else that I have actually traveled, it's been like, okay, come right on in, and it's like, so let's talk about that a little bit because, I think it's important for people to understand that, other countries and other people from other parts of the world don't have it as easy, and so really checking that privilege, okay, and really understanding where other people where their struggles meet and what they have to overcome and why many times it's so important in terms of when people from other countries come to the US. Usually people have gone through a lot just to get here, and I think that sometimes people here in the US, we tend to take that for granted because we are under no matter, I mean, not everything is perfect, maybe politically, okay, but
Mm.
under the umbrella of the US, there are certain guarantees that we have, okay? Especially when you are talking about the US passport, okay? So, talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, I'm very interested in that, the living abroad too, but not just the frivolous stuff or your favorite foods. I mean, I want to hear that too, but also this as well because this is important for people to understand.
Yeah. So yeah, so that was also one of the considerations for me because as a US citizen, you can just wake up and decide, okay, I want to live in Bali for 6 months or 1 year, and you just get on a flight and go. So for me, the first decision in I want to be a digital nomad, where do I go to? Also had to boil down to where are the places that I have access to. So I was fortunate to have gotten a US visa and a Canadian visa around the same within a few months of each other. And I think that also spurred me on because I was like, okay, you have this and you have this. With just these two countries, there's so much you can do. And the good thing about having those visas is that there are also other countries that it affords you access into, like Mexico, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, Colombia, a few of these North American and Central, basically these countries on the American continent. So what I did initially, my plan was to go to the US because I have a lot of family in the US, cousins, aunties, like a lot of people in the US versus Canada, where I only had one cousin, and some friends. So the initial plan was, okay, go to the US. But somehow, I got convinced to go to Canada instead because of, the things that were going on around immigration and Nigeria, especially with US. Even now, there's some restrictions, some further restrictions that have been placed on Nigeria. So with that, I just said, you know what, I don't want to go to get to the border and then, there's the conversation about this or that. So I said, let me go to Canada first. At least if I've been to Canada, it makes me less of a, seem like less of a threat or a risk at the border because they're like, okay, she's been to Canada, so it's cool. So as if I was coming directly from Nigeria. In fact, the immigration between the US and Canada is very calm. They scan
Mhm.
your passport even on Canadian soil. So it was a safer and a better experience. Yeah, so that's how I ended up instead of the US going to Canada. And when I got to Canada, I was in Toronto. I think that was when I first started to entertain the idea of being a digital nomad. Because my initial plan was come to Canada and kind of, you know, figure out, because they have a lot of pathways for people who want to immigrate and see which one was applicable to me. But then I started to think of it like there's so much of the world available for you to see. Why do you want to just limit yourself to just this one country? Like there's so many places that you could go and visit. And so I started within Canada. So I landed in Toronto. In Toronto, I went to Vancouver and then I went to Edmonton. Yeah. So I was in three cities in Canada within a 6 month period. And then in August, actually, I visited the US while in Canada. So I went to the US and then I went back to Canada. So in August, I decided, okay, I want to go to the US. And I also had a friend who was having like a celebration who was inviting me. So that was the
Mhm.
motivation I needed. So I went
Mhm.
to the US, spent like a week thereabouts, and went back to Canada. And then I stayed in Canada for a few more months and then went to the US and spent, like 3 months in the US. Started off in New York, then I went to LA, from LA to Las Vegas, from Las Vegas to Nashville, from Nashville to Wisconsin, from
Wow.
Wisconsin to Chicago,
I mean,
and from
now,
Chicago to
wow,
Atlanta.
you visited places here right in the US. I'm so busy traveling, so busy at the time traveling abroad.
Outside.
I never even really visited places here in my own town, and I have loads of questions to ask you about those places. I've been to New York. I love New York,
Yeah.
and Chicago. I actually has family outside of Chicago, so I've been able to go there. And then, I visited LA, a couple times, and then Nevada and Las Vegas. So what I want to know is you must tell me in terms of your perspective of each
Mm.
state, okay? And definitely want to hear about Wisconsin because I mean the most I know about it is cheese because I'm a cheeseaholic, okay? And I love me some damn cheddar. Anybody knows, in fact, I have a friend of mine who tells me all the time, it ain't easy being cheesy, okay? So I
I like
love me
that.
some it ain't easy being cheesy, and I am a cheese person. You wanna see me have a good time? Give me a
Give you some
charcuterie
wine
board.
and cheese
Just give Yes, give me a charcuterie board that
for
has a layer of different cheeses and strawberries and blueberries and some different little wafers. Oh, yes, it is I'm so there for it. So you must tell me about Wisconsin. I need to live vicariously through you right now.
it. I think everyone, literally everyone I told I was going to Wisconsin, they're like, "You're going to Wisconsin? Who goes to Wisconsin? What's in Wisconsin? Like, why are you going to Wisconsin?" But then I had a cousin there who I hadn't seen, for many years. And, I wanted to see him. He had a new house and he had, family there. So I wanted to spend some time with them. And I also had an auntie as well who was living in a different city, still in Wisconsin. So my cousin lived in Appleton, my aunt lived in Madison. So I went to
Okay.
both places. But for the most part, I was in Appleton. What can I say? One thing that did happen that was interesting. I met a guy, we went on two
Okay.
dates, and he wanted us to get married after
Wow.
two
Like, how were
days.
you there? Wait a minute, how long did you know him before he wanted to pop the question?
2 days.
Child, that has
And
stalker all over.
he was already like, "Oh, you need to delete your apps."
Yes,
Because we're
and
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah, you talking marriage in 48
I
hours,
don't
that's
even
a
know your
problem.
last name.
That's the problem. 48 hours, you talking marriage, that is a problem waiting to happen.
So, but other than that, Wisconsin, it's really, I think it's a family city. So
Mhm.
people go there to raise their family. It's like really quiet and cold. If you're someone who doesn't like the cold, it's not great. So
Don't go to Wisconsin?
yeah, no. So, but for the most part, I was just spending time with family. Wisconsin was family time. That's it. Nothing more. But because it's a small
Okay.
city, I think if you want to get married quickly, move to Wisconsin. Because
Move
like
to Wisconsin.
all the men are looking to, they're looking to
Hear
get
that,
married.
ladies?
Maybe because
Hear
it's
that,
so
little
cold out there.
they need somebody to snuggle up with. Hear that, ladies? If you wanna meet a man,
Move
go
to
to
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. That is too much. Oh my god. So
Yeah.
what about Chicago? I love Chicago. I absolutely enjoy Chicago from the
Mm.
deep dish pizza on down. What did you like about Chicago?
I didn't really spend so much. I was there for 2 days, 48 hours basically. So all I did was went to a restaurant, did the nightlife. That was it. So it's one of those places that okay, I have to go back here because I didn't get to experience it that much. But one place that did surprise me was Nashville.
Nashville got it going on. Really. I mean, what was your take? I heard
Yeah.
Nashville really has it going on. And I was shocked to hear that.
Yeah, because when I said I was going to Nashville, again, everybody was like, "Going to Nashville? Why going to Nashville? There's nothing. Nashville is dead. There's nothing happening there." I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I'll find out." But then I went online. I saw all those things about the Music City and
Mhm.
the what's it called, the Avenue, where they have like all the bars. I saw like they had
Mhm.
some entertainment, so I was like, "Okay, let's go." And I had a friend there as well. which was why I was going. So, and I was entertained. Like people call it Little Vegas. And so for it to have earned that title, oh yeah, Broadway. Broadway is the avenue where they have all those, bars with the live music and the
Okay.
ladies and the
Broadway.
colorful outfits.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed going to Nashville. The nightlife is fun. They have like some really good restaurants as well. Like the food.
Mm,
I actually went on a food tour. I did the whole Nashville chicken. I did the
love
Hattie
it.
B's. You know, the food scene there is pretty dope. And
Okay.
I think it's not a bad place to visit. I don't know about living there,
Okay.
but to visit,
Okay.
it's not a bad.
Okay. Gotta put that on my list too, Nashville. You know, you're the third person who I said I remember I was talking to it was more like a business call, but in the call, the gentleman he talked about because he lived in Nashville, and he
Mm,
indicated, how really fun, But I remember he indicated, he said, but you know what? He said, before you get here, he said, you gotta make sure you take it easy. He said because and I guess he was talking about with the bars, and then so he's got to take it easy.
mm,
I
mm,
probably won't have too much of a problem with that. I mean, I'm more of a wine person. I don't, kind of do the
mm.
hard liquor anymore, but even with the wine, if you have too much of that,
Yeah,
in excess,
yeah, yeah.
anything in excess is not good. So regardless if it's wine, too much beer, whatever, it can go hazy shades of gray really left really quick,
Mm,
but he did mention what a fun town, that
it is. Yeah.
Nashville is, and, I'm gonna, kinda put that on my to-do list in terms of places here in the US,
Mm.
to travel. Now, weren't you at one point in Houston as well?
Oh, yeah,
I
Houston.
think so what
Yeah,
did
I
you
forgot
think
to
of
mention
Houston?
that.
I have so many because I have a girlfriend of mine, actually, a really good friend of mine named Bree, and Bree is in law school, and, she actually when I first met her, she lived here in Philadelphia, and actually we lived on the same street, and she was, like, in one building, and I was in another, and we struck up, friendship. I wanna say probably maybe something about maybe 2, maybe 3 years ago now, it hasn't been very long, but I know that she, kinda took off and went to Houston and, absolutely loves it, and, she enjoys it. So I wanna get your take on Houston as well.
I liked Houston. In Nigeria, do you know what they call Houston?
What
Little
they call it?
Lagos.
Little what?
Lagos.
Little Legos. Oh, wow.
Because there are so many Nigerians there. I think Houston has the highest population of Nigerians in the US. So
Wow.
going there, yeah. So going there was like being in between. It has like the Nigerian vibe, but then it's in the US. So someone who lives in Houston is like you have the best of both worlds. You're surrounded
The
by
best
people
of
who
both
look like
worlds.
you, people who sound like you, people who eat the food you eat. So it's easy to like
Okay.
find the food, find the ingredients and all that, which, most places are not that way. Canada or even in the US. So, but then, I also love the food scene. I went to so many restaurants. I think another thing that threw me off with Houston is how like big and far apart everywhere is, So I was staying somewhere around Richmond
Mhm.
and to go to do like fun things in Houston, you typically would want to go, to the central area. And from where I was staying, it would take at least 45 minutes. So literally every day I had to go out, it'll do like a 45-minute journey, but I didn't mind because like the scenery is good. But all of that to say,
Mhm.
Houston is pretty spread out. It's not like
Okay.
a Wisconsin or a Nashville where, like things are kind of close to each other. But other than that,
Okay.
I liked it just for the Nigerian, being in Nigeria and being in the US at the same time.
At the same time. So would you say that that's kinda a city where you felt, like, most aligned, like, with your, personality and energy?
No,
Okay. So where in the US would you say you felt that way?
New York actually. I really like New York.
Okay,
I
I
really
get
like
it.
I like New York. Like, Like the energy,
Yeah.
everyone is like so driven, like, oh, we need to get.
Yeah.
So before I went to New York, actually, what I started to do, there's this all these real estate shows, where they show like houses in different cities. So I started to watch the one for New York, and I just
Mhm.
enjoyed it so much, looking at the houses, the buildings, the streets, and how it looked clean. I was like, this is literally the big city. This is the dream.
Like, that's
Being
yeah,
able to
yeah,
afford
that's
to
the
live
big
in New
city.
York, oh, that's it. Yeah, I would say that m my dream would still be to live in New York, maybe up until when I want to retire or something. But I would like to live in New York, but live a nice life, not struggle life,
Yes, I
living
hear
like
you.
Manhattan,
I hear you. I hear
not
you.
not
You're
to
for you,
struggle.
New York.
If you live a struggle life in New York, you won't enjoy it.
No, no, New York can be very costly, but,
Yeah.
if things are the way you need them to be, it is
Yes.
lots of fun.
Yeah.
What were some things that you get a chance to do any Broadway shows or, any plays or
No.
something or
No. I was busy doing all the touristy stuff like Staten Island, 9/11,
Mhm.
Brooklyn Bridge, like all those usual things that
Yeah,
people do.
yeah,
I didn't get to see anything. I think also because I didn't really have people around me that were interested in that. So
interested.
I
Okay,
wasn't sure if I wanted to
okay.
do it by myself, but it's definitely somewhere that I want to go over and over and over again because I just love big cities, Lagos, Toronto, New York.
Mhm.
Yes, that's my vibe.
Well, you have to if you're in Philly, I mean, in New York, about 2 hours south or 2.5 hours south of you is Philly, and
Mm,
we have our own, kinda, like, vibe here, as well. It is different from New York. I myself, grew up in New Jersey, so I was in between Philadelphia and New York, and,
yeah.
in my 20s, I, would come back and forth a lot here to the Philadelphia region, but would also visit New York too. I, had and still have a really good girlfriend of mine whose mom at the time lived in Harlem, and she was actually from Brooklyn
Mm,
and kinda hanging with her as I got older, I got a chance to kinda get out and see different parts of New York and have a different experience. Growing up, my mom, exposed me a lot, to New York as a kid, so she kinda raised me in terms of, like, going to different Broadway musicals and shows and exposing me to that theatrical, life, that I absolutely love and is why I'm so passionate about performing arts and things like that to this day, but the food, is phenomenal there. They have great nightlife there. Like you're right. Like you just really can't go wrong with New York.
yeah,
It's like the best. But if you get a chance,
everything.
ever, in the area, come on down to Philly. We have, some great nightlife, here as
Mm.
well. And the food to I will say, and this,
The Philly
the food
cheesesteak and all of that.
you want a Philly cheese well, yeah, it's great, but you know what? Honestly, from and this is my opinion, and any Philadelphian who hears this may probably get upset, or maybe they'll agree, I don't know. But, I mean, to me, the best steaks you do have really good places that are in Philadelphia, absolutely bar none. The Philly cheesesteak is synonymous with Philadelphia, but there is this one place, that I, absolutely, love their cheesesteaks, and they are, like, over in New Jersey. I wish I could remember the name of it right now. It's kinda, like, escaping me at the moment. I actually took a girlfriend of mine who had visited me from DC, a friend of mine named Tiffany visited me from DC a couple months back, and when I took her there, she was like, "Oh my goodness, I love this cheese." Like, I wish I remembered the name of it, I just don't remember, so it's like, Philly, yes, it's synonymous with cheesesteaks, but you also have some really, really good authentic steaks in New Jersey. So if you ever happen to be here, I have to take you there to taste both. Philly and there
Yeah.
as well. I can let you be be the judge. But Philly is known and has so many different flavors, and people get so hung up on the cheese stick that I mean, when I talk about Philly has some really, I mean, like, mwah, like chef's kiss. Like we have some really good places. We have a lot of some really good food here. Very just, just good food, and sometimes it's not always, have to be like this five-star experience. However, we do have that as well. Sometimes, it's the local spots. It's the local spots, kind of where you pull up, especially like I know that here we have like the Italian market, okay, which is, kind of like this you can go there on a Saturday or even a Sunday or whatever. And I remember first time I went with a girlfriend of mine, it's kind of like this open air market, okay? You can just kind of walk around and I mean and just get really really good food. Like I remember, you want to talk about somebody who will could keel over from eating a lot of cheese. They had this spot there. I mean, because they have like the actual like the cheese stores, the specialty stores. So it's not like you're going in, to a market and you're going to like that, cheese section, which is great too, don't get me wrong. But this was like
Mm.
the actual cheese store. So there was one that I really, really loved was called the Bruno Brothers, okay, which is right down in the Italian market. And I think actually for me, this was years ago. I venture to say probably this experience was probably more than about maybe 10 years ago or longer than maybe 10 years ago. And I remember going in there and just smelling the aromas of the different cheese and then ordering it. And, I literally walked out and had spent like $250, between 200 and $250 on cheese because these are like imported cheeses, and it's like, okay, they'll tell you that it's been, aged like so many years and all that, and by the way, it's like $78 a pound. It's just like, "What?"
Wow.
Like that, where it was like that, in terms of,
Mm.
the specialty shops. I tell you, we had the most I mean, we everybody, like, we bought something and we took it back to my, friend's house, and her boyfriend, now husband at the time her husband, now boyfriend at the time, we just moshed on cheese and olives and wine, and
Oh
oh
my
my god,
God.
it was just like amazing experience, myself and just about all my friends are foodies, so we really and we like good food. We're not much we will make do fast food. We're not really fast food people. We like
Mm.
that good food, so, but anyway, I just want to, move on a little bit and ask you. So let me ask you, so what are some misconceptions would you say that people overseas, okay, have about America that, turn out to be wrong to you after experiencing it for yourself?
I think it's actually on the negative side. You know, when you're not in the US, you think it's this amazing place, like everything, especially if you're someone who's never traveled before. And every time you watch the movies, the movies are all shot in the US and
Mhm.
all of that. You're like, oh, this place, when I want to come here. And you make it out
Right.
to be this amazing place in your head. And then you get there, you're like, okay, this is it. Like there are streets in Nigeria that look just like this, you know?
Mhm.
So I think that's for me that was the first thing like wow it's just a regular place like right like it's a nice place but it's not heaven like everywhere has its own flaws right
Absolutely, and I'm so
so I
glad that you
think
said that.
I think that was like one of the biggest awakening moments for me, and everything just kind of aligned with that because the moment you stop seeing it as a god of a place, then it just becomes normal. So the
Yeah.
moment I stopped worrying about I have a Nigerian passport, I'm traveling to the US, am I going to be stopped? What's the experience going to be like? Are they going to, like, because there's all these stories, living in Nigeria, growing up in Nigeria, there are all these stories about people getting deported and all of that.
Mhm.
So you always have it at the back of it. And also, someone who has traveled with a Nigerian passport over the years and have seen firsthand the kind of experiences that you have as a Nigerian passport holder. Like everywhere. Even when I came to Mexico,
Oh, okay.
when I came to Mexico, I had to like work extra hard as a Nigerian passport holder for me to get the 6 months, residency pass, which if you have an American passport, there's even no conversation. You just come in and automatically you're getting 6 months, right? But as a Nigerian passport holder, you have to negotiate. I think the first time I came, I got less than a month, so I had to leave. So these are some of the things that if you're not tenacious, if you're not someone who has built up this kind of shield or this kind of energy whereby any issue that you encounter on your journey, you know that is something that you can solve. There's nothing that is going to be such a big thing that you're not able to figure it out. So I think when I came to that point of realization, like whatever problem I encounter on this journey, I can figure it out. So that has, has been what has been a driving force for me. So when I travel somewhere and I encounter any kind of issue at the border or, immigration, I always know how to figure it out because it's
Okay.
that learned experience too. And it's not something that you just wake up one day and you just know. It's also a muscle. It's like working out. You have to build the muscle
That
and
muscle.
then
Yeah.
eventually it helps you to navigate your way through this remote culture and remote life.
Okay. So let me ask you. So, as someone now, who has been seeing America through fresh eyes, if you had to compare, say, the US versus Canada, what stands out, the most? And where would you prefer to be the most?
Okay. The first factor between my US Canada conversation would be opportunities. So everyone in Canada at some point they're thinking, oh, I want to get a job in the US because
Really?
because like the US pays better.
I see. Okay.
So even though the currency is not the same, but when you even convert it to dollars, you find that like the pay gap is there. So for a lot of
Mm,
people, there's like, I like Canada. I love the safety. Like people living in Canada, like it's such a great place to live in. The
mhm.
roads are clean,
Yeah.
there's security, like you're coming back from anywhere at midnight and you're reason at least if you're in the central areas you're safe, and if you're anywhere else you're reasonably safe. That how you're in some cities you're walking at night and you know that
Yeah.
anything could happen. In Canada there's less
Yeah.
chance of that, happening. So that's one of the things that I liked. They have lots of beautiful places. And another thing, Canadians are like one of the most polite people that I've ever met. Like, I didn't think it was true when someone told me until I experienced it myself. People get off the bus and they thank the driver. And it's not like a
Wow.
one-off thing. It's not a one-off thing. Every single day, every single time I took the bus, everyone who got off say thank you, thank you.
Wow.
I'm like, what? I've never seen this before.
Gratitude and
Yeah, yeah. And then you place that side by side with New York.
you saw my eyes.
People don't even want to pay for the bus fare. So those are some of the things that I would say are like the contradictions. But again, more opportunities, more things to do. The weather in the US, you can choose a moderate weather city versus a cold weather city. In Canada, everywhere is cold. Some places are colder
Yeah.
than others, but everywhere is cold. So if you're someone who can't stand the cold, that's the factors to consider as well.
Okay, that's probably a place to stay away from then.
Yeah,
Right.
if
All
you
right.
don't like the cold, yes.
You don't like the cold. Okay. All right. So, marketing, digital marketing. Okay. How did you get into doing that? And how do you work that in terms of, do you have like multiple clients? Like, how did you build, that career? Were there certifications that you needed to get? Are you like self taught? Tell us about, kind of becoming, a digital marketer.
Okay. Well, I did study mass communication in school as my first degree and corporate communications for my master's. So when I got out of school, my first job was, in a media house. So I was writing and all that. I didn't really enjoy that job very much, and I realized that okay, media work is not for me. I know I studied mass communication, but like there's so many other parts of it. There's PR, there's marketing as well. Marketing is also a part of mass communication because I know I had like a course on it. So yeah, so from the media job, I moved to another company. At the time, I think this was when social media was just becoming a thing, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know that at the media company, I had been assigned the task of managing the company's social media accounts and doing all that. So then this other company was looking for a social media manager at the time. So like, okay, this thing, I just started it and it's something that I enjoy doing. So, let me apply for this job and try. And so that's how I started working for that company and I guess honed my social media skills, around all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, blogging, content marketing as a whole. So I was there for a while, then I moved to a different company and then I did more of digital marketing and I just kind of grew from there. I was with social media, there's things that are constantly changing. With digital marketing, things are changing. It's like any algorithm, things are constantly changing. So the knowledge that
Mhm.
you had 2 years ago probably isn't relevant now. In fact, 6 months
Mm.
ago, because things are evolving. So when I started social media management, there was nothing like TikTok. Now TikTok is like one of the biggest social media platforms out there, if not the biggest.
Mhm.
So, for most of what I know, it's been a combination of obtaining skills online and figuring it out on the job. So it's been a combination of the two. And I've done that now for, over a decade, just growing on my skills, evolving and building up on what I already know. So that's what has pretty much taken me from then until now. So when I left Nigeria, I started off working in having a full-time job in a company. But at the same time, I also had another part-time job on the side. So, but then I realized that I was constantly having clashes with my meetings. I remember this particular time I had I had a fixed meeting that happened every day at 8 a.m. with one of the companies. And then I had another fixed meeting by 8 a.m. with the other company. And so I had to figure out how do I balance the two? Because this one doesn't know that I'm working a second job, right? So it's like
Mhm.
you say, "Oh, I'm not available to meet at 8 a.m. every day." Every reasonable boss is going to ask you why. It's not a
Right.
one-off thing, So I had to be creative in how I manage that situation, And going from there, eventually I realized that actually freelancing is what I prefer to do so that I can get back control of my time.
Mhm.
So I stopped working with the full-time company and focused instead on working with multiple clients. I know it can be a lot to keep up with. You have to remember this is what client A wants and what client B wants and what client C wants, and make sure that each of them is still getting that personalized,
Mhm.
individualized kind of treatment and service. So this is where, digital tools come in, make sure that everything in my life is project managed, and I had to learn all these things by doing it. And I know a lot of my friends, they would or just, people that I know, they would always come to me like, oh, I want a remote job. How do I start? What do I need to do? Do I need like everyone that has come to me with this is always like so confused because you know that this thing exists. Yes, you can work remotely. Yes, this is how it works in theory. But when it actually boils down to how do I go from here not having a remote job to there where I have a good remote job. People
Mhm.
don't know. And a lot of people, what all they do is, oh, they just say, okay, I want a remote job. Then they go online and then start applying. But with what you do is you apply for all of these jobs, but because you haven't built the background first, you haven't done the right things, you spend all your energy applying until one day you realize, damn, man, this thing is not working. And then you quit. And that's and that's where it ends. So what I did, one of the things I did, I actually put together like a guide for people who want to start, this whole remote lifestyle journey, whether it's you want to work remotely so that you can have more time with your family, more time to do the things you love, or you want to be like me and you want to just travel from one place to the other, whatever your case is, the guide will pretty much tell you everything you need to know from how to put together your resume, because that's the first step. A lot of people, they just
Okay.
say, I want a remote job, and then you go and apply. So the hiring manager, if it even gets there, most of these resumes, ATS would already filter through it and you wouldn't even get through the door. But let's imagine you somehow get through the door. Maybe there's no ATS. So the hiring manager is looking at your resume like, okay, I did XYZ job in Nigeria. Okay. Or I did this in Nigeria. And they're looking, this person has no remote experience. Yes, you might have experience for the job that you're applying for. So maybe marketing, maybe you have marketing experience or customer service or project management. Maybe you have those experiences, but you don't have remote work experience. And these
Mhm.
hiring managers, for a lot of them, they are looking out for that because they understand that it takes a lot. Not everybody has the capability to actually work remotely. And if you have no clue or you've never done it before,
Uh-huh.
it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of difficult to, oops. Ugh, if this was in Nigeria, that would be a normal thing.
Was it they have, like, the load shedding and things like that
Yes,
too?
yes, yes. So that could happen at any point. If I was in
So
Nigeria, I
anytime.
wouldn't even I wouldn't even shake because I know that okay, they've taken the light. But yeah. So the guide pretty much talks about everything when it comes to the travel part of it. How do you put together your itinerary? Where do you go to that favors your Nigerian passport versus not? How do you integrate into the community? Like if you're constantly moving from one place to the other, it's harder to make friends or to build relationships. So how do you do that? Because for me, everywhere I go to, if I want to have friends there, I will have friends there. So I've hacked it. I figured out how to do it, and it
Yeah,
works every
so
time.
you're expert. You're an
And it
expert
works
now.
every time. So like there are so many different components to this, and that's why a lot of people get discouraged and then just stop. And one thing that a lot of people also fail to realize is for a remote job that is posted out there, whereas in the past, if I was applying to a job, let's say a job in Lagos, I know that I'm only competing with other people in Lagos that have the skill sets required for this job, right? And
Mhm.
there are not that many people versus a remote job, where they say you can work from anywhere. So now I'm competing with the Indians, the Filipinos, the Mexicans, the Canadians, the people in the US, pretty much competing with everybody with all of their skill sets. So it's like
Mhm.
times 100 the effort needed to stand out. So it's not a walk in the park. There's the element of luck. Obviously, there are people who have been lucky and they just kind of dabble into it and it just works out for them. But for the majority of people, you need systemic planning. You need to know the things that you need to do, the skills that you need to learn. For instance, what are the jobs that have more opportunities? Because you also want to look into career paths where there are a lot of jobs online. Or, if you're an engineer, for instance, there are far less engineering remote jobs because it's
Mhm.
a hands-on role. If someone came to me now and said, I'm an engineer, are you there?
I am. You just kinda froze a
Okay,
little bit, but I was waiting for it to kinda start back up again. I figured
okay.
it would. It would just take a few seconds or whatever. 'Cause your
Yeah,
picture's still frozen, but it'll come back. Continue to talk. Wait, okay, alright. I think it might be
it's
unfrozen
back
now,
now.
though.
Yeah.
Yep, there we go. Okay, we're good. Okay, I see you now. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I was saying like you need to know like what career paths have more opportunities, like there are more jobs. So if an engineer came to me, for instance, and said, you know what, I'm an engineer and I've been searching for remote engineering jobs online without much success, like I don't know what to do. Obviously, I know that there are not that many, engineering jobs for remote workers. So, however,
Mhm,
as an engineer, you have other skill sets, right? That have jobs that are on the remote job market. So as an engineer, you probably
mhm,
have, skills in things like Power BI and Excel, and you know how to solve complex problems. So that kind of person, you can be a technical product manager. You can look for jobs as a project manager. You can look for jobs as a data manager, someone that deals with data. I know that there are jobs, at least these areas that I've called, there are a lot of companies hiring people remotely for that. So it's someone comes to me with that, we'll look at, okay, this is your job, but what is your skill set? If someone came to me and said, I'm a lawyer, I'm not minding remote jobs for lawyers. Okay, can you write legal documents? Can you draft contracts? There are all these different jobs that are online, but you won't see lawyer, remote, no, So it's now
Right.
for you to figure out what other popular jobs are there that I can do with my current skill set. Or even if I
Okay.
can't do them with my current skill set, what additional skills do I need to acquire so that I can do these jobs professionally and efficiently?
Okay.
So,
Now talk to me about logistics or accommodation. So when you're in these different places, are you Airbnb-ing it? Are you doing
mm,
hostels? Are you staying in like bed breakfasts, month to month rentals? Like what are you doing to be
mm,
able to do that? And how do you budget for each place like where you're going? Because I would think that budget is very important when you are living this kind of a lifestyle.
yeah,
You have to make sure that you're able to pay for your
afford it.
accommodations and then keep your other, you have your food and then be able to keep up even just say things such as like your place to stay and food and just your livelihood there. So how do you budget and is that different in every place that you stay really?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's different in every place that I stay. I usually it's a combination of different things. So I try to go to cities where I have family there or I know someone there for the
Okay, and
most
you
part.
stay with them.
So for the most part, that has been what I have done that has helped to keep my costs low. So throughout the time I was in Canada, I
Hmm.
didn't have to pay for accommodation. So that really helped. That really helped at the time. But also beyond family and friends, there have been times when there's an app called Couchsurfing, you
I've
know.
heard of that.
So
I've heard of
yes.
surfing.
So but with couch surfing, it's like short term stays. You can stay with someone for a few days until you figure out what you want to do. Maybe you want to get an apartment and all that. So I know
Hmm.
that I've used that in the past and it's been quite helpful too, especially if you don't want to use it for accommodation, you actually can use it for making friends. So you get to a new city, you don't know anybody, just go on Couchsurfing and post that you're looking to hang out with locals, and you'll get people actually wanting to meet up with you. So it's a very good solution for short-term accommodation problems, meeting up with friends, bonding with the locals, learning more about what makes the place tick. So yeah, those have been some avenues that I've used. But in general, I either stay with people or if I'm gonna stay there for a long time, obviously, like over a month, then I would get an apartment and an Airbnb or rent directly from whoever it is. So that those have been my options.
Okay. So, future goals, future things that you want to do. Do you see yourself doing this for long term? Like for another, like, just say 5, 10 years out, or, when do you like, how long do you see yourself, doing this for?
Yeah, 5, 10 years. I'm not sure about that unless I meet someone like a partner and we were aligned in okay, we're going to be traveling family. But I know there are, very few people who are into this lifestyle and very even fewer people who would want to incorporate family and this because there are a lot of logistics. If you have kids, you have to figure out
Hmm.
their schooling, you have to figure out the kids' social development, making friends, and just being an
Hmm.
all-rounded human. You have kids that all they do is spend time with you traveling. They need to interact with other children and do other stuff on their own. So yeah. So if I met someone now and I felt like it was the right time, right person, then I'm happy to stop wherever I am. Literally
Okay.
stop and just
Okay.
be there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, if you had to choose a country, to build a life permanently, I mean,
Mm.
where do you think that would be, or do you think you need to do a little bit more traveling to be able to, ascertain that?
Yeah. I think right now I like the concept of living somewhere in Europe. Specifically, I
Okay.
always say, oh, London is like one of my favorite cities, and if I could,
Mm,
I would like to live in London.
one of mine too.
Like for
I
the
enjoy
longest
going
time, I was like, oh,
there.
London, I love it. I love the accent. I love the buildings. I love like it's such a nice place. So if I had to pick right now, I would pick London.
You pick London. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So now what does success look like for you now compared to 5 years ago? I mean, because 'cause I'm with
Mm.
all these different experience, I'm sure your eyes have been opened, so what does success look like for you now compared to then?
Well, 5 years ago, I wasn't even planning to live elsewhere in Nigeria because I've had different friends move abroad, and I'm like, yeah, I'm never going to do this. Like life in Nigeria is good. And I'm thinking about, when you live in Nigeria, you don't have to do all the manual labor. You don't have to clean your house by yourself. You don't have to cook for yourself. You don't have to drive yourself. All of this is very
You
affordable.
hire
Like
help you hire
yeah,
help
the
to
regular
do it.
person. Yeah, do like you don't have to stress. I'm like, why would I leave all that and then move to the US and be jumping bus? I had my own car, and be entering bus and be cleaning your house and be doing everything. I'm like, no, I can't do that. So to go from that person to me now, and that's the thing about human beings, like we constantly evolve. The person I was 5 years ago is not the person I am now. And who knows who
Yeah,
the next person that is going to is. There's always a new version of yourself.
yeah.
It's only for you to choose to, accept whoever you're becoming. Because a lot of times we're like, no, and then you're fighting. I know I want to stay back to where I was. But like if you stay there, you're not gonna grow.
Right,
So
right.
for me now, growth looks like I don't think I can ever go back to a regular office job. I've realized that because I've spent so
Preaching to
many
the
years
choir. I
chasing.
know I can't. I know I can't. Yeah, I cannot. I can't meet our strict timelines of 8 o'clock. Like, what? Be
Yeah,
where? In a traffic for how long? Bye. No, I cannot. I hear
exactly.
you with that. I hear you.
Like I spent so many years chasing the dream of, work a regular job, you keep getting promoted, you become like an executive, you get the company car and all of that. So that was the dream. Like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I knew how many years I had to devote to get there. And then to walk away from all of that and literally like starting from scratch. So for me now, growth looks like being able to dictate, where my time goes
Mm, that's
ultimately,
so important.
Yes, because I realized like we spend so much time chasing a pipe dream. I traveled one time I went on a cruise and on the ship it was like 80% retired people,
Mhm.
you know. And to me, it's like these people have probably lived and worked all their lives saving and waiting to retire so that now they can travel the world and enjoy their lives. But they can't even do anything. Like you're restricted in terms of movement, physical limitations, and things like that. So at
Yeah,
the end of the day, you spend the major part of your life just working. And then when do you get to actually enjoy and just live? I don't
and
think
live.
I
You
wasn't brought
mentioned
to this
it.
life to
Yeah,
work. Yeah. So yeah, so for
I
me,
hear
growth would be being able to continue to afford this life where I can, and go whenever I want to, and still being able to make an impact and obviously make money. Like nobody wants to not make money, right? So yeah, but the biggest thing for me now is being in control of my time. So I would say
love it.
that's what growth looks like.
Okay. So last question, if you could send a letter, okay, with love from Nigeria to your younger self, what would you say?
I would say maybe you should have had a baby a long time ago. So that now you're not looking at the biological clock like, okay, I have to do this, I have to do that. Because if I had a baby already, I won't be having such thoughts. So my letter to my younger self would be have a baby, just try. You can even just marry one guy, have a baby, and then decide what else you want to do with your life because it gets harder. And I have a lot of
Yeah.
friends who are older and they want to start a family, and it definitely gets older. But I'm not going to sit here and lie to myself that it's the same. So, that's one thing. The second thing would be like, don't be afraid to fail. Because for the longest
Mm,
time,
yes.
yeah, don't be afraid to fail. For the longest time for me, like I would always be stuck in this decision or indecision paralysis phase. And that has led me to miss out on so many things, like so many things, because I was always afraid to try because what if I fail? When the whole crypto boom came around, I had the opportunity to invest, buy some coins, and by now I'll be a millionaire. But I was like, I kept thinking, oh, should I? Should I not? Should I? And when I start thinking like that, eventually I do nothing. So now the thing I'm doing for myself now, which I would tell my younger self to have done, anything that you think you want to do, just do it. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, you've learned something new about
Absolutely.
yourself. So that would
Absolutely.
be it. Don't be afraid to fail. Try things. You never know what you're good at until you try. But
Absolutely. You're
ultimately,
very, yeah.
you know, give yourself the permission to be happy on your own. Because a lot of times, especially as women or as Black women or African women, we're taught from a young age to be super nice. Like that is the first thing. Like as a woman, you have to be nice, you have to
Yes.
be
Yes.
respectful,
Yes.
you have, we're taught that. I remember even in uni then, like it's so crazy. I was in a boarding, not in uni, in secondary school. I was in a boarding house, right? And then one of the things that we used to do in secondary school, when you come in as a fresher, you will have a school mother who is supposed to take care of you and look out for you and make sure that you're good. So one of the things that my school mother at that time would be teaching me is like anytime I came to her hostel, if I saw any senior sweeping, I had to go to the senior and take the broom and be like, oh, don't worry, I got this. So that's how ingrained the whole
This
culture of
nice.
being
Being nice. Yeah.
subservient, just being the
Yeah.
nice one and just, you
Yeah.
know. So that was all we know, all we knew. So growing up, I was always afraid to, say no or to be disagreeable. So I overcompensated a lot. It was only until I started to get older, yes, that I started to allow myself permission to take up space. Like, I don't have to be a certain way to fit in. Like I can be the way I am. And
Hmm.
and I will fit in or I won't. But that's
Right.
also okay, right? It's also okay to not fit in. It's okay to be on the outside if that's
Completely.
where your people are.
Absolutely. Completely. Completely. Yeah, I like to say, and this is something because, that I have, adopted here lately, I'm kind, but no, don't consider me as nice, but I am kind, because many times nice comes with that people pleasing, mentality or, being a doormat, for others because people don't respect or seem to
Yeah,
respect nice. They
nice.
respect and they even mistake kindness for weakness, okay? But, I say that especially I would say now after I've gotten older and I really kinda have gotten to know myself, and, just kinda my walk and my journey, that I have, right now in Christ and, and all of that. I have learned that, okay, boundaries are a real thing, and they keep you safe, for a reason, and it's perfectly okay to have them.
Yeah,
I make sure that I keep those in place, and keeping them also keeps those that have other toxic or unsavory motives away from you because they don't particularly like boundaries. They like to step over them. So, I lead with that in terms of just having those healthy boundaries. So I say to people, I am kind, but I don't go with nice anymore, but I do go with kindness.
fair enough. I agree. I agree. Because being nice never, it never got me anything.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It really doesn't.
It
Trying
never
to
got me anything.
kindness is different,
Yeah,
and And
Yes.
you reserve the right to say, "Okay, you know what? You know what? No." And sometimes no is a complete and total sentence. There doesn't have to be any follow-up after the word no. It's just no, and guess what? No again.
No.
So, there's also that as well. So, I am so glad that, you've developed that and that you now have your voice and that you are not afraid to say your piece, speak your ground, and be kind, but not necessarily always nice compared to whatever anyone else or their barometer of what nice means,
Yeah.
you know?
I agree.
Well,
I
thank
agree.
you. I want to thank you so much. I'm sorry, did I cut you off, Chinny? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do
No,
that.
no, no. I was saying that I agree. I agree.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for being a part of, the pull up and pour show today. And for all you guys out there, thank you again for joining in and tuning in. And as always, we sip it, we share it, okay? And we say it, okay? And the next time we will have Tiffany Smith with us here. Tiffany will be talking more about human resources. That will be probably not this Monday, but the Monday after. I don't have a calendar in front of me, so I cannot pull that up to let you know what that date is. I think that might be I don't know. I think that might be something like the 27th, I think. Yeah. So we will have Tiffany on not Tiffany Smith. I'm sorry, Tiffany Walker. Wrong name, right first name, wrong last name. We will have Tiffany Walker on here with us, and she will be we'll be talking about HR. Okay. Then back in, prior to, AI and now and what that changes and how that looks like and how to be able to get your resume so that it lines up with the different algorithms so you're able to kind of be considered, for different opportunities. So thank you for having us, and we are going to take our outro out. And as I say, here at Pull Up and Pour, come with your heart, come with your soul, come with whatever beverage that you choose that you want to bring with you. Good night.
Good night.
Well, that's today's Pull Up and Pour. Thanks for pulling up, showing up, and sharing space with us. If something resonated, don't hold it in. Share this episode, start the conversation, and come back next time with whatever's in your heart and in your glass. Because this is where we say it, sip it, and share it. And there's always room at the table. Until next time, take care, stay connected, and don't be a stranger.